folks, the 2024 US election is just around the corner. In fact, guys, we're just 3 weeks away from election night, election day. It is going to be certainly the most interesting and the most, gripping day of the year for Americans and for the world as a whole, possibly. I'm going to be watching it closely, and I announced already that the election will be followed closely here on this channel. I'm going to live stream it on YouTube, maybe also on other social media platforms. I'm going to do it on all platforms. I don't know yet, but we will follow it closely because it's going to be a very important night and we have to follow it closely. So the US election is getting tighter and tighter. It is getting closer and closer. Things have been happening. Momentum has been shifting constantly from one side to the other side. This is in fact the only election out of the last 15 elections in which no candidate has had a 5-point lead at any moment in the polls in the last months of the election. In 2020, Biden had a 5 points lead. Same thing, Clinton in 2016. I assume Obama in both 2008 and 2012 had at least in a certain moment a 5-point lead. But here in this election, it is not happening, guys. It is not happening at the moment. There has been no candidate out of Kamala Harris and Trump, because I think that Trump wasn't up 5 points. I don't know if it's about the national average or swing states or all of that stuff. It's a little bit complex. But regardless of that, guys, this election is very, very interesting. It is very, very gripping, and we're going to follow it closely. We're going to talk about how momentum will shift. I'm going to clarify. I'm going to talk about my position on the 2024 election. I'm going to talk about my prediction. And most importantly, I'm going to talk about who I support. And I want to make one thing clear. You already know this, but for the people who are new to this channel, and there are going to be many of those because, in the following days I will be posting many shorts and the channel will grow because I have to, now nerd, let's use this word. I have to, work as hard as possible because there is a bet going on with my best friend, and I have to work as hard as I can in order to win the bet, and I will win the bet. Greg, you ain't winning. You will go bold. I am telling you this. Get ready, because I am not going to lose. I've never lost a bet. I've never broken promises. And this is not the time I will break one. So get ready to go bold. I'm going to go there to Athens. And I'm going to be professional. I'm going to say it. And I'm going to document it. But you're going to go bold, my friend. I love you. We're best friends. We will take a bullet for each other. But you will go bold. This is a message for you directly. So get ready. Now, guys, let's go directly into the episode. One thing which I also want to add, we will talk about October surprises. Let's start by talking about how the election is looking at the moment. So we have Trump and Kamala Harris who are very close in the polls. So the polls are not all that matters. We saw it in 2020, we saw it in 2016, we saw it in all the past elections, but especially let's talk about the elections in which Trump featured, because that's what's interesting. In 2016, Trump was massively underestimated. Clinton had like 90% chance of winning. All the media was saying, no, it's impossible, Trump will never win, Trump won't be president, Trump doesn't stand a chance, and in the end, he won. So polls don't matter as much as you might believe. Polls are not as important as you might believe. Polls are not all that counts. And the perfect example for that is the 2016 election. In the 2016 election, Trump brutally outperformed the polls. He was supposed to lose in all countries. Not in all the states, but for example, let's speak Florida. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win in Florida, yet Trump won Florida. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Trump won those 3 states. So it is clear that the polls make mistakes too, and that has been the same in 2020. Biden should have destroyed Trump in that election. It should have been a landslide. On the other hand, the election was decided by few tens of thousands of votes. That's the truth, because, Trump was a couple of thousands of votes away from winning Georgia. The same thing with, not Pennsylvania, but the same thing with Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Was very close in those states. He was very close in all of those states, and it was a matter of 50, 60,000 votes. So despite Biden predicted to win, despite the the predictions and the polls saying that Biden was going to win with, a big margin. That wasn't the case. Yes, Biden won the popular vote by, unless I'm mistaken, 5 or 6%, something around that. And he won the election pretty comfortably, more comfortably than Trump won the election in 2016. However, it was still very close because it came down to the wire. It came down to tens of thousands of votes. It was a matter of very few people. That election could have easily gone to Trump, even though he lost the popular vote by more than 5%. That election could have still gone to Trump very easily. So that tells a lot about how the polls have been wrong in the last elections, and especially with Trump. Trump has always been massively underestimated. So if we look at the polls, and if we take what's happened in the last two elections, and we consider all the errors that have been made by the polls, if we add all of that together, Trump is going to win a landslide. It is clear now it's basically a tide, and the momentum is on Trump's side. And if the momentum keeps going in his way for the following 3 weeks, or if Trump ends the election season with momentum, he's gonna wipe out Harris. It's as simple as it gets, if that's the truth. I mean, that's what the election looks like at the moment, because if Trump is basically in a toss-up situation in regards to the election, if he is basically in that kind of situation with the polls, which have always underestimated him massively, it means that he's up by 2, 3, 4 points in all the swing states, and possibly he's also going to win the popular vote. And if Trump wins the popular vote, or if it even comes close to that, Trump has won the election. If Harris doesn't win the popular vote at least by 3, or, well, at least by 2.5 points, she's going to lose the election. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million votes out of 130 million, more or less, which is about 2.7, 2.8, I don't remember exactly, percent of the popular vote, more than Trump, yet she still lost. So Harris needs to win the popular vote by a great margin, and if she isn't within a, let's say, 3% margin, I think she has very few chances of winning the election. I think she does, really. And that's my honest idea. Now the election, now it looks like the momentum has been shifting to Trump. It looks like that's been happening since Harris took office. Let's review and let's go back and think about all that's happened since Harris became the nominee. So Harris becomes nominee, and she's in a very, very bad position because Biden was literally sinking in the polls. He was literally sinking, and that's not an exaggeration, that's just the truth. Biden was losing very badly. Trump was supposed to win almost 400 points. I mean, if that trend had been going on, Trump would have won the election by a landslide, and by a lot. He would have won in a landslide, and most importantly, would have gone close to 400 points. And that's a ridiculous achievement, given that he's not a unifier. He's never been the guy who has tried to push that message. Trump has always been the guy, and this is necessary given the kind of base he has, who has tried to motivate his base to vote rather than invite more people to his base, if that makes sense. I used the wrong verb, but I hope that you understood the whole message I tried to put across, if that makes sense. But regardless of that, needless to say, let's go back to the situation regarding the election. Since Kamala Harris became the nominee, so since Biden dropped out, she had her honeymoon, which went on for about 1 month, and then she started going down. She had her honeymoon, it is true, and she gave no interviews. She hid, and she didn't do any interview whatsoever, and she didn't do, and she didn't interact with the press whatsoever. She was just doing her rallies. The Democrats were very, and are still, I think, happy that they have a candidate which has chances to win rather than a corpse. And that's what's happened. Then, after a month, more or less after a month, in late August / beginning of September, Trump started to gain momentum again. He started to gain momentum, and he built up some momentum. In fact, I think that in the end of August, beginning of September, Trump surpassed Kamala Harris's odds on the polling market, and that trend kept going on up until the debate. In the debate, Kamala outperformed Trump, hence Kamala became the favorite again, and she gained momentum again. Despite all of that, Trump started, I wouldn't say that Trump started to campaign seriously. I would say intensified the campaign. He started doing massive rallies again, and from there on, Trump has been having the momentum on his side. The momentum shifted on Trump's side. So Kamala kept the momentum for about 2 weeks after the debate, up until, let's say, 10 days ago, and then from 10 days ago onwards, Trump started to gain momentum back, and Kamala started to plummet, especially in the polling market. I'm looking at it right now. I'm not looking at it, but it is just on the iPad. Kamala's chances to win, but this is at 2 p.m., 2 p.m. and 5 minutes, 2:05 in the East Coast, so New York time, just to say it like that. At the moment, we have Trump at 58.1 and Kamala at 41.6. That's the biggest lead Trump's ever held ever since Biden dropped out of the race. When Biden dropped out of the race, at that moment, I think Trump must have had a 30%, point lead, which was absolutely, it was an unsalvageable situation for Biden. After the debate, Biden irrevocably destroyed his chances of getting re-elected. Let's say it in that way. Let's use easy words. I don't wanna make this video too complicated and too difficult to follow. So that's how the situation has looked, and now Trump has had the momentum ever since the vice presidential debate. I would say the vice presidential debate helped Trump because Vance really, really performed well. Vance's performance against Tim Walz was a masterclass. That's how you debate. He was polite, yet he was sharp. He was both things. He was very balanced. He didn't look radical, which is something that wouldn't have been good. And he did a really great job. So that's certainly been. I think that's been the best debate performance of the season. Then I don't know which one we have, to be honest. I don't even know how great of a performance Trump's one was against Biden, because we have to consider that Trump literally debated a guy who doesn't understand where he is. So, it was a very easy opponent for Trump. It wasn't an opponent that was just, Biden was just there physically, but mentally wasn't there, was somewhere else. There is no doubt about it. So, yeah, I don't even know how much, I don't even know how to classify Trump's performance against Biden in of itself, because he was just debating a corpse. Let's just leave it there. How will the momentum shift in the following weeks? Well, that's an interesting situation. That's an interesting question, certainly. I believe that the momentum will shift. I mean, I'm gonna link this very part of the video with my prediction when it comes to the election. I'm not gonna do any electoral map prediction until now. I'll probably do one or two, probably one week before the election, or 1 day before the election, or 3 days before the election, but it's just gonna be based on my gut feeling, because I want to make this clear. I have been to the US once, and it was a couple of months ago, it was a couple of months back, it was like in February, March, and I went to Hawaii and California, and those two states are gonna vote blue regardless of whoever the Democratic nominee is. If you put a chair as the Democratic nominee, Hawaii and California will vote for the chair. They won't vote for the Republican, even if it is a moderate Republican. Trump isn't a moderate Republican. I don't think he's radical. I just think he ain't normal. He ain't a normal Republican. Let's just leave it there. So, I mean, there is no chance in California they will ever vote for him. But if there were a chance of California going red, it would be with some sort of moderate, which is just disguised as a Republican. That's the only way it could go. And if maybe, the Democrat was less left-leaning than you would imagine, that's the only way I think California would ever turn red. But that's not going to happen in this election. It's not going to happen in the next elections either. That's the kind of situation we're looking at right now regarding California. But my prediction is that Kamala Harris is going to win. I know that this sounds crazy, and since I'm a Trump supporter, I want to make this clear, guys. I support Trump in this election. And if I manage to come across as unbiased, I did a good job, because it's great to come across as unbiased, given that I'm just commentating on the situation. I'm not taking any position whatsoever. I genuinely hope Trump wins. I think he's the better candidate. I think his term was more successful than Biden's and Kamala's one, without a doubt, without the slightest of doubts. Kamala, said a couple of days ago, and that was a very bad moment for Kamala's campaign. A couple of days ago, she said, "I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't do anything differently from how Biden did it." That's more or less what she said. She said, I wouldn't change anything Biden did." Which is a very, very bad sentence to say, and it's a very, very bad sentence to utter, given how bad the Biden administration has been. And this is not my opinion, this is the Americans' opinion. It is not just mine. So I support Trump because he's a stronger candidate. I support Trump because he's gotten better policies. His policy on immigration is better, even though now it is less restrictionist than it used to be 10 years ago, but it is still better. Kamala wants open borders, and that's not some fantasy, this is just the truth. She wants the border to be wide open. She wants millions of illegal immigrants to come in. And as Elon Musk says, and I know that I will be called biased for saying this, but this is just the truth. This is just something which you can understand by being perspicacious and perceptive enough. The truth is that there is a clear incentive that Democrats have in order to allow millions of illegal immigrants to pour into the country, because Democrats are the only folks who are going to allow that to happen. Hence, those illegal immigrants will vote overwhelmingly Democrat. It is just normal. Republicans ain't gonna earn any vote from illegal immigrants, because they are not gonna allow illegal immigrants to come into the country, or at least Trump. That's as simple as it gets, guys. This is just the truth. And this is not any election conspiracy, guys. Let me make this very clear. This is not any conspiracy theory. This is just realism, whether you like it or not. The Democratic Party, well, let's take Kamala. She wants as many legal aliens to come into the country, as many asylum seekers to come into the country, especially in swing states, in order to win the elections, in order to, have an incentive, in order to have further votes. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is just realism. Because those illegal immigrants, and by the way, what's crazy is that in the US you need an ID for everything, but to vote. If you want to vote, you don't need an ID. In fact, Gavin Newsom, who's woke, let's just say it there because it's the truth. I'm not afraid of telling the truth, of telling it how it is. That's something I think you understood with my videos. Gavin Newsom was an extremist. Well, I think he is. He's very, 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 very left-leaning. Too much left-leaning, I would say. That's too much extremism. The dudes just passed a law which prohibits and forbids officials from asking, voters for an ID. You can't do that, or you can't accept an ID. That's what you can't do. So basically, how can you recognize and how can you notice whether there is voter fraud or not? That's a problem with the elections in America. I'm not saying the 2020 election was rigged, guys. Let me make this very clear also. I've got no clue about the 2020 election because I didn't follow it. I don't know what happened. I know few things about the 2020 election. But what is true, and I think that also Democrats will agree with this, it is objectively true that since illegal immigrants are only allowed to pour into the country by Democrats, therefore those individuals will vote overwhelmingly Democrat and they will have Democrats. It is just true. And if you are a Democrat, you want it. Now, I'm not saying that the Republicans aren't corrupt. Let me make this clear because I'm also very professional and coherent. I operate under professionalism and coherency. No coherency. Coherency ain't a word. Remove it. I operate under professionalism and under the realm of coherence. Coherence is a word. Coherence is a word. Coherency isn't, but coherence is a word. So I try to be both professional and coherent. The Republican Party is corrupt as hell. It is the truth. And the same thing happens with every party in the world. If you don't think that the two most important parties of the most important country in the world aren't corrupt, you are naive. they are corrupt, and that's just true. You know, there is no data needed to support this theory. I would argue that at least 60% of the populace agrees with this. There is always that 30% who believes everything the news tells them, which ain't gonna believe in this, but luckily the other 60% I think believes in this. That's what I think, personally. October surprises. October surprises. Let's just go to October surprises, guys. Will there be an October surprise? I don't think there's going to be an October surprise. I don't think there's going to be a very big surprise. What I think is going to happen is clear in this election. It's going to be a very tight one, but in the end, Kamala is going to win. And I am a Trump supporter, so I genuinely hope I'm wrong. You know, I hope I am wrong. I'm very wrong. But, you know, and again, guys, this is just my gut feeling. I think that Trump's not going to win. I've been feeling in that way ever since I started following the election. I don't feel he's gonna get back in the White House. I feel like Kamala's gonna win in the end, and that's gonna be bad because that's of course gonna be bad for the U.S. It would be better in my opinion if Trump won, but unfortunately that's what's gonna happen. I believe we're gonna see an election where Trump loses by a whisker. That's what's gonna happen. I think that Kamala's gonna win by very few points in the electoral college, and she's gonna win the popular vote by probably 3 or 4%. That's what I think is gonna happen, and she's gonna win in the end. But I genuinely hope Trump wins. Regarding the momentum will shift, I think, in the following way. Trump's gonna keep the momentum for the following 10, 15 days, and then in the last week, something's gonna happen. Because no, actually I would say this. The situation will be like this more or less until election day, and it is gonna get a little bit better for Kamala because right now it is looking bad for her. However, I believe that in the end, Kamala's gonna win. I believe she's gonna win because I think that something is gonna happen. I think that polls will be wrong, but this time they will be pretty accurate because they're predicting basically a tie. And I think that this time they will be pretty accurate to some degree, and more importantly, I think that Kamala's gonna win. That's my gut feeling. I have got no data to back this up. This is just purely my instinct. That's what my instinct has been telling me ever since I've been following this election, which has now been like 5 months. That's how long I've been following this election for. So that's just my gut feeling. It is not based upon data. It is not based upon facts. That's just my gut feeling. That's just the way I feel about this election as a whole. And I don't think we're gonna see very big October surprises. We're not gonna see anything big, anything bombastic. It's not gonna be anything enormous. I don't think that there are gonna be very big October surprises. I just think that it is gonna be in this. The election is gonna play out the way. I think that the election is gonna be very tight, and in the end, Kamala's gonna win. As much as the odds are in Trump's favor, I believe. But I just happen to feel that Kamala is going to take this election. And guys, this is just the way I feel. I know that it is repetitive, and I know that I'm being reluctant. But it is my gut feeling. I hope I'm genuinely wrong, guys. In my heart, I genuinely hope I'm wrong. I'm cheering for Trump. And so are many folks out there, I think. So are many folks, at least my folks. The shorts in which I praised Kamala Harris, where I said that she was presidential, has gotten 17 dislikes and 3 likes, which is brutal. So Kamala isn't well liked. I understood that. I didn't expect her to be so disliked, and that was kind of interesting. It took me aback, to say the least. So that's how I feel about Kamala's chances and Trump's chances. That's how I feel about who's gonna win as a whole. This is my official prediction. I've been saying this for weeks. I think I've been saying this for months. I've been saying that Trump's not gonna win, and I hope I'm wrong. Guys, if in 21 days Trump is the 47th president of the USA, I would be happy. I wouldn't be that annoyed that I predicted something wrongly. I wouldn't be very mad at that. I wouldn't really bother. Sorry, it wouldn't really bother me as much as maybe it should, because I hate making mistakes. I hate being wrong. But in this case, being wrong would be better. So it would be fine were I to be wrong. Folks, now let me know your thoughts about the 2024 election. those were just my thoughts. I want to know yours. I want to know your prediction, and I want to know who you're supporting for and why. And let me know the vibe in the US, because unfortunately I cannot be there. I would love to be there, but I cannot be there. That's a very unfortunate thing. But I live very far away from the US. I live in Europe, as I said, and it is very difficult for me to now come to the US. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts on the 2024 election. We're just 3 weeks away from the big day. 3 weeks away. It's going to be a little bit less actually when I make this video. It's going to be a little bit short of 21 days. It's going to be like 20 days and 20 hours, more or less, stuff like that. Guys, see you in the following days with new videos. It's been great.